This is your host, Alec Mohebian, and today, the Personal Palisades Tour takes a disconcerting turn as I try to find the idyllic, dimly lit childhood house where I read so many Goosebumps, watched so many Are You Afraids of the Dark, and where, among other fine purple and gold-colored events, I witnessed Kobe grow his fro and defeat the immortal Michael J. But something went wrong. I got lost. The house on Las Lomas couldn't be found. Las Lomas Avenue itself wasn't where I thought it was, where I knew it must be. It didn't look or feel anything like the street I remembered, and I even wondered if somehow the street names had been switched around for some bizarre reason, like to make room for Obama. We all know that memory is defective, that even photographic details can rearrange themselves in our minds as they do in dreams. But could I, a memory merchant of one kind or another since my days at Las Lomas, could I really be this upside down, inside out? Could I really be this wrong about such a vivid part of my history? Or was I the victim of an optical illusion? The kind of illusion that's known to lie in wait for those who go west on Sunset Boulevard in pursuit of a filthy Armenian adventure. Hey, this is your host, Alec Mohebian, with a quick message before we continue. Based in that great but very troubled place, Hollywood, California, Filthy Armenian Adventures is an interdimensional travel program that takes you deep into the cultural mysteries of our time. In search of truth, in search of gold, in search of lost friends and unsung heroes, in search of John Galt's motor. This show is your antidote to the black pill. This is your guide to the places, the personalities, the ideas and creations the enemies of man don't want you to know. This is your techno-noir investigation into the good, the evil, and the God hiding under our noise. This is where you get the news before it breaks, before it blows, before it burns. The show is supported entirely by patrons at patreon.com/filthyarmenian. As a patron, you get access to twice as many adventures, including the most important ones, the ones with the real facts. Plus, regular brief smoke break spiritual reports on topics of the day. As a patron, you also get exclusive access to our Smash live events. Ask anyone who's attended one, and they will tell you it's an experience you'll never forget. It's very easy to keep Filthy Armenian Adventures alive. You can still listen to the show on your favorite app like Spotify or Apple, and you can do so with the pride that you're putting a little bit of money where your soul is. More patrons means more fuel, more topics, more investigations, more miracles, more secret locations, and forbidden territories around the world, and the world that is Los Angeles, our post-apocalyptic headquarters. It means we'll be able to track down more enchanting figures in the landscape, dare them to abandon their masks, and join our quest out of the darkness and into a golden age. Patreon.com/filthyarmenian. Thank you for being one of the good ones, and enjoy the show. Let's see if it'll just pop up out of nowhere. Let's see if from the vast, vast emptiness before me on both sides, a childhood house will just rematerialize out of nowhere, where there is currently nothing but vegetation and ruin, and not even any bones of the ruin. They've all been burned off. Your destination is on the right. Shut up. My destination is on the right. Well, my destination cannot be seen because it is gone. Way gone. And I can't even recognize the exact spot because everything is gone. Must be this one. Maybe it's a little bit up. I don't know. It's hard to identify. I better look at my phone. Oh, okay. Just a little bit down. This is Las Lomas, and we nearly averted a very, very catastrophic beginning of this tour where I was going to reckon with being completely backwards about where this house was, where I moved in 1995, the age of 10. 1995, a year that, as I indicated in the previous segment of this tour, was a very good year for me. 1995 was as sweet and alive as it sounds. It was a wonderful year. It was the year, I think, that I was in 5th grade, and we moved here, 645. There it is. Here it is. I see the sign, and it is simply vegetation. It is total vegetation now. And it was on this sort of incline where the backyard went straight down. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. 2-story house, and then the yard before it. And it is, I'm going to have to take some pictures while I still can. Well, you know, I just had to have that moment to myself, because this is the first time I have ever come back to this house ever since we left it in 1997. We were here for 2 years, and it was my 5th grade and 6th grade year, and that transition from, you know, not very significant later on in your mind, but then at the time, a significant transition from elementary to junior high, or middle school, as it was then officially called, despite being painted with the words junior high. And that transition occurred through the domestic portal of this house on 645 Las Lomas, which I'm glad to see was at least standing in the very place that I thought it was. I got very troubled earlier as I missed the street because it doesn't exist anymore. The street is gone, so there was nothing to mark the beginning in the sunshine, and the sun was camouflaging the street sign, and there was nothing to indicate that there was anywhere to turn to except off a cliff, because everything is gone. And so I turned right to the other north side of the street, of the block that's on the other side, the opposite side of Sunset Boulevard, which I didn't recognize at all. And I knew it was left, and it was not right. And so I was completely discombobulated, and I started to seriously question whether my entire 100% certain memory of this, the entire location of that house, could have been faulty. And that is a very troubling troubling possibility to reckon with as you embark on a tour of the past. But I'm happy to report that it was only because of the fire that I was beginning to doubt myself, or that I had mistaken myself. It was only because of the fire that I didn't see the left side of the street, the actual block and the actual location where I spent 2 years of my life in a happy state, relatively speaking. Those were happy years, 1995. Happy years to be alive. I don't care how corny the rhyme is. I'll keep pressing it because I feel it. And this was the first time in my life that I lived in a proper neighborhood. You know, before, I was a little kid, I was in Hollywood. It wasn't really a neighborhood. Kind of more, you know, too many transients for it to be quite a neighborhood. It wasn't really, I was too young for it to matter anyway. But still, and then my mom splits up and my dad moves all the way to this side of town. But it's in a canyon, up in the hills. And that's not a neighborhood. You know, you got some funky old neighbors that you either kick it with or are scheming against all the time. But, you know, it's not a nice, you know, you're not going to have friends your age playing around. But here I did, finally, for the first time in my life, here in Pacific Palisades. My good friend, at the time, my best friend, Kevin, lived just a few blocks from where I am right now. Could walk to his house. Matt didn't live far away either. He lived around here. It was the first time that I had a childhood neighborhood, and the only time that it was 24/7. And so I have happy memories of this house. And if I put my mind to it, I can think of multiple discoveries that were made in this house for me in my life. This was in this house that the internet first entered our home. It was in this house, as I recall. I can remember it. I remember the very first time I logged onto the internet from home. I think it was the very first time ever. And I remember it. I remember the website. I remember the computer, the place of the computer, the thrill, the email. You know, there was a website that, there's a very distinct feeling that's connected to that becoming a part of your life. You know, that whole dial-up like suspense movie, that suspense radio show, like you would play, you'd press it and you just hope it gets through. And there was like a 75% chance at best that it would get through at any given time, those early years of the internet. It was like you're always kind of rolling the dice. So just getting online was like a cha-ching, you know, it was like you hit something. It was fun. It was innocent as can be. It was the innocent years of the internet. There was a time that, unfortunately, I guess if you're too young, you don't remember. There was this time when the internet was this brand new thing that was like just this innocent wonder, endless possibility. You had to have an analog, I think, background to truly appreciate that particular sense of wonder and possibility, even if you're a very optimistic young person who was born into it. Especially given the bitterness that would accrue over the years regarding our digital alternate reality that is gradually displacing this reality. It was a fun time to be thinking about the internet. I have resolved to be happy on this particular occasion because driving here, I was touched by the sun, as I not often am. The sun never shines brighter in LA than it does in December. The sun in LA in December, that's a different story. It's like the opposite of what it is in August, the opposite of that little theater of dying. In December, what the sun here does is it finds a way to reach you and touch you at some point in the day, on most days, and make you feel like a kid again. This is where I discovered coffee. Not in this house per se. It was in Las Vegas where I had my first taste, but it was while we lived here that the smells of coffee were becoming ever more enticing and enchanting to me. When the grown-ups would be having their very heavy Armenian coffee that has a very pungent and kind of dominating smell, but in a very welcome way. Dom, the kind of Dom you want to see in the world. And this is also about the time, as I recall, when Starbucks began to be a thing here. Starbucks played a huge role in all this because all of a sudden I was accompanying my grandmother as she would buy 6, 7, 8, coffees for everyone. They all loved coffee, and Starbucks was a big revolution in in American coffee culture, as we all know. And so the kind of ubiquitousness of Starbucks and everyone going in and out, wanting desperately to drink Starbucks, that all kind of happened here. And a garage sale happened here. You can't have a cliche childhood neighborhood without a cliche childhood garage sale. And we had one here when we were moving back out and back to the original house that we had to leave because the 94 Shortcuts Northridge earthquake had, quote, damaged the foundation, end quote. Family house had to be torn down because the foundation had been damaged and rebuilt up again. There were a lot of coffee runs. This is where I think because of the internet, I first simulated being a DJ. Not the Berlin kind, but the Wolfman kind, the radio DJ kind. A role, a job that I looked upon glamorously because I had seen it in real life happening at the 88.1 NPR station operating out of Cal State Long Beach, called K-Jazz now, then called KLON. I always found KLON to be more jazzy than K-Jazz, if you know what I mean. something really melodious about KLON. Something really cool and suave about KLON that K-Jazz is just too on the nose to capture, if you know what I mean. K-Jizz, on the other hand, but, KJZZ. I mean, I like it on its own, but KLON had it, man. KLON had it. Where was I? Anyway, I went with my dad to volunteer at their pledge drives. Twice a year, the Jazz would have these pledge drives, trying to get people to call in and donate. And that was actually, a very little exciting episode in my life, because it was so much fun. There was food, obviously. We're sitting there. It's so old school. The whole operation is like, they're communicating on this. At the time, I guess it wasn't old school. It was just what it was. It was then school. Just like an ancient-looking monitor, and they're typing in the messages to go inside into the DJ booth, where he's surrounded by this machine that looks like one of those, floor-to-ceiling computers from the 1960s, all surrounding him, this giant contraption, really cool, like he's operating a spaceship or something. And, he's putting in the discs there, or the record here, or the this there, that there, and he's getting in the messages in this really old-timey monitor-to-monitor way, dual monitor way. And, he's picking out the music in between from the library. He's picking out everything, and anytime you're in the other room, you're getting phone calls from listeners trying to take their pledges, hit the goals, those goals, or someone would make a matching pledge. That old tactic to fire people up. Someone else is doing it. You got a match. Of course, they were going to give that donation anyway. But if you do it as a matching pledge, then it just inspires more donations. So that's where the matching pledge thing came from, I learned. And I would take phone calls there. And I talked to some really famous jazz musicians who called in, and I picked up the phone for them to give their donations. And then in the case of Charlie Hayden, spent an hour of me going through every possible gift that he could get for that amount, like going through their extras catalog. I was on the phone for an hour with him. He couldn't decide which gift he wanted. The other famous one was Poncho Sanchez, the Latin American jazz trumpeter. He was far more reasonable in his time, and it was really cool. And I guess that gave me that made DJing seem such a glamorous thing to me, and I started doing it here on Los Lomas, putting the CDs into the computer and like doing as if I was a DJ. I just remember that, apropos of nothing. I'm taking a sip of coffee now in memory of the childhood beverage. Thank you. Aww. I think of like these things like certain burgers and certain beverages, the way like childhood pets almost, except they've been with you forever. And DJing here, garage sale, it was while living here and doing a flea market in the area where the pharmacy used to be, this like a hardware store used to be, kind of next to what is now, or what was now, Ralph's, and what is now nothing, but was previously Hughes. There was a big lot where there was a flea market that we went to, and also before we were going to move out of here. And I had just started my sports card business, and somehow someone was, got to talking to me at our table, and gave me her card, and it was for Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul. She wanted to do a story about me and my card life for Chicken Soup of the Teenage Soul, but nothing came of it. But potential chicken soup for the teenage soul. So there was a nice little flea. So I participated in a flea market in this town. What else? What else did I do for the first time out of Las Lomas? Panda Express. the Panda Express, which I'll have to double check as we go through the village, whether it's still there. I don't think it made it, but maybe. That first visit to that place, I remember who was there, my uncle, his friend Kev, my uncle's friend, who I distinctly now remember from that visit, when he was, and he was a man who loves his food, and really loves his food, and when he was getting his plate, and he asked him to, like, fill the, he was like having him fill a cup of hot and sour soup, and as the ladle, the ladle spilled the soup into the bowl, as it elegantly dripped the soup into the bowl, I remember Kev saying, "Beautiful." So that, of course, is going to make you a Panda Express customer for life, and more or less I have been. That happened here, the wonderful Panda Express. We used to go to this place, a sit-down, fancier place called Panda Inn, for birthdays of those years, and those are great too. But that's neither ching nor chong. The point is that I did a lot for the first time here. There's something else that I think I did here for the first time. What was it? Recycling. That's it. Recycling. It was at this house that recycling became a temporary hysteria in my family. My family meaning my grandmother, who ran the house and who got it into her head from somewhere that we should try to recycle. This being 95 or 96, and to save our bottles and our cans and take them in for money, because you could apparently get money for bottles and cans that you already drank. Imagine that, I mean, that they're worth something with the drink inside. But to discover that they're worth something even without the drink, well, that's like making out, that's profit. It's like you making a profit. You're in the black. You can resell that shit. So excitedly, for weeks, for months, we saved all of our cans and bottles, and it was a fairly big household at the time. There were a lot of different people living in there, a lot of generations, a lot of side generations or temporary visitors who came in and out. And, we amassed quite, we would have a birthday barbecue, we would have gatherings. Didn't take long. We amassed quite a collection, and I was so excited. I was participating too, because I felt like, oh, each can is money. It's like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. We loaded it all up into her Mitsubishi. What the fuck was it? Their SUV. I forget the name, the model. It was a Mitsubishi SUV. Loaded up, very tall, like it was kind of like the shape of a box, as many are. And we loaded it up with all these trash bags full of cans and bottles. Took them to the recycling center, which was around the Hughes and Ralph's supermarket, off to the side or something, felt like. And we turned them all in, and he counted them all up. And he wrote us a check for $17.19. And that was the end of recycling for my grandmother. That was the end. Oh, there's nothing like witnessing a grown-up realize that they were scammed. That they fell for a current thing and were completely bamboozled. Oh my God. I wonder if that had any long-term effects on my thinking. It is such a gorgeous dusk out here, as the sun has already departed, but has still left its echoes behind to remind us that yes, it's okay, if only for a moment, to be a kid again. Las Lomas is gone. Nothing has ever been more gone. The house where I got lice is gone. The house where Mozart, our golden lab of youth, had such a fine time going up and down, and once even got stuck in some sort of hole that she couldn't get herself out of in this hilly backyard, etched into a canyon, engraved, one might say, into the canyon. Poor Mozart. Our lovely Porky family, golden lab, once got stuck, and we had to, my uncle had to yank her up and out, and the sound that a dog makes when she gets, yanked in a way she doesn't like. Boy, that sound is, or when you step on her tail, that yelping sound. Boy, that makes you feel for those poor things. That's gone. That's gone. That is gone. That is gone, and the sky is getting purple. But I am happy. I am happy. Because if nothing else, I have chosen to be happy. I have chosen to be happy. I have chosen to be happy because as I walk down this empty lot, haunting the ruins of my past, the sun shines down upon me, and I see at the bottom of the rolling yard, emanating from the various shrubbery, a little statue of an angel with his flute. I can't remember if I remember that statue being there before, but I don't think it was. Meet me on the corner where there used to be a street. Meet me at the corner where there used to be a street. Well, he got that one right too, didn't he? Mr. Cohen. Where there used to be a street, and there's now only memory. Memory shimmering under the dying sunlight of December on Las Lomas, just south off Sunset Boulevard. As it begins its descent, right at the moment, right at the spot, where it begins its descent into the Pacific Ocean. This is the exact spot. The corner where there used to be a street of Sunset Boulevard and Las Lomas. It's at this corner, you can hear the cars pass on Sunset, but it's at this corner where it could go either way. It could still go either way. You still haven't run out of time. You still haven't run out of space. You can turn right back around if you want to. And I will. I will for the moment, because I do think that there is a place I have perhaps underrated, overlooked, in any case, not thought too deeply about in a long, long time, but a place where some shit went down of consequence in my life. A place named after the great silversmith, entrepreneur, engraver, and patriot Paul Revere.
Counting line, I'm counting down mailboxes until my house. This place had a heartbeat in its day. Vale bought the mountains and nothing was the same. Yes, the boys are drunk, the sun is high. Their license plates live free or die. But it just ain't that simple. It never was. We'll drink to New Year's, then they'll leave me to clean up. One day I'm gonna cut it clear, ride like Paul Revere. And when they ask me who I am, I'll say I'm not from around here. I'll leave before the road crews out, for those joggers looking way too proud. And I'll turn up the music, and I'll forget until it ends that I'm not ready to let go yet. One day I'm gonna cut it clear, ride like Paul Revere. And when they ask me who I am, I'll just pretend I didn't hear. It's typical, I fear. Folks just disappear. And when they ask me who I am, I'll say I'm not from around here.
This episode of Filthy Armenian Adventures was recorded in Pacific Palisades on December 11, 2025. On November 26, the mayor announced that on 915 North Kagawa Street, the first house that perished in the fires had officially been rebuilt. But nobody can buy it, nobody ever will, because it's a developer's model that got its permit months before the January blaze.
Where we buried the dog, and the world makes sense behind the chain link fence. If I could leave, I would have already left. But I'm in my car, and I see the yard, and the patch of grass where we buried the dog. And the world makes sense behind a chain link fence. If I could leave, I would have already left. I would have already left.
This show is made possible by the memory merchants, cigar singers, and developers of the night who subscribe on Patreon. To join their elite society and get twice as many adventures, plus regular smoke break mini episodes on Gossip of the Day, subscribe to the show at patreon.com/filthyarmenian. The Personal Palisades Tour will continue in the coming weeks. Thank you for listening, and see you on Las Lomas.